We are live. Woo! Live, baby. Yeah. Look. On today's live, look, we're doing things today. We are having some discussions today about Bitcoin. And today's an amazing day to do it, right? Because Bitcoin just ran up over 20K like that, hit 21,000 like that. And I want to have a discussion with somebody who I believe is a Bitcoin expert. I'm going to have a colleague here, John, get on this live. Sorry, I'm just sending him a text to make sure he knows I'm on. And we're going to ask him some questions like, what's Bitcoin? Here is John. He's on here. Let's approve. So he's always been able to explain. John, you're here. What's
I found
up?
it. I made it.
You made it. Thank you, man. I appreciate you coming on because I can't explain all these things, man. It took me a while to get it. Like I've been trying. You know what I'm saying? Like it took me probably I want to say altogether. It probably took me like a couple months to really grasp what I was looking at. On and off, getting in and out the game. And I feel
It's
like you
complicated.
super. And I feel like you've had that ease of like explaining it. I don't know where it came from, but before we get into that, before we talk about what Bitcoin is, get into like the nitty gritty and explain to everyone so they can, decide if they want to get in or not. Who are you, man? I never really got down to, besides meeting you in public and never really had that conversation. Who's John? Who's John Reusing?
Well, I used to own this bar down in Baltimore called Bad Decisions, and that's kind of where I found out about this whole Bitcoin world. I was lurking on Reddit instead of like cleaning the bar one day or doing paperwork or any of the things I should have been doing. And I read about a local group that was going to have a Bitcoin meetup at a different bar. And hungry for customers, I said, I don't care what your meetup's about. If you guys have it here, I'll let you, it's money. I'll let you pay for beers and Bitcoin or whatever. Like, I don't care. Like, just, bring some customers in on a Tuesday night. So I stole the Bitcoin meetup from another bar across town. And as a result, like back in like 2012, 2011, somewhere back there, I got to be sitting in the room with a bunch of the original kind of Bitcoin people, the people that were
Mm-hmm.
like not interested in the money, not interested in it's going to be $20,000 one day. These were the people that were interested in it from a technological standpoint, from like the code, the cryptographic stuff, the real complicated background stuff that the average user doesn't need to know about or doesn't need to care about really. But the reason I think I can explain it so well now is because I heard these guys really nerd out about it and go to town on it. And then I had to try to tell the other customers in the bar what the hell they were talking about after they left.
Oh
So,
man.
yeah.
So you were in it. You were straight in front of the OGs of like Bitcoin, hearing it go from one person to the other, and then trying to dissect what they're talking about. That
Yeah, like really like the mathematics of it. And most of that went over my head, but enough of it stuck in between the drinks that I have a pretty firm grasp of it nowadays.
hey, if you got it, if you got it, drink it, and if you're enjoying it, I'm gonna take a sip right now before we go into these questions.
Let's see, I've been waiting until after this is done so I can be coherent and
Hey, I just started. I purposely did not take a sip earlier until now. But so before we go down a wild path here about bars and liquor and stuff, you've been in it long enough that I think if I asked you to tell somebody who's a layman like me, I just say I'm a layman and I don't know anything. What is Bitcoin? Break it down for me like I don't know what I'm talking about.
so Bitcoin is supposed to be the $20 bill for the internet, right? It's supposed to be digital version of cash. And anybody knows if you think about it, there's a big difference between using a credit card or using a check and using cash.
Mhm.
And it was easy for the internet to have credit cards, to wire money between banks, but there was no real solution for just cash. So Bitcoin was to solve that problem. It succeeded in a lot of ways, it failed in some, but the invention of Bitcoin kind of kicked off this technology called blockchain that allows for digital cash.
Gotcha. So is it something that just like regular cash is right now that you could say you can use and has value like a dollar?
So the original goal was to be that, right? Um, One of the criticisms about Bitcoin now is that because of the scarcity of it, it can't really function as a dollar anymore. Like if I wanted to buy a house, Bitcoin's great at a large transaction. But
Mm,
if I wanted to buy a cheeseburger and I'm waiting in line and there's eight other cars behind me at the drive-through, the time it takes to process this Bitcoin transaction would really screw up the drive-through. Also, the fees, if it's $5 in fees to move any amount of Bitcoin, and I just want to buy a $5 cheeseburger, I just doubled my cost on the cheeseburger. So
mm,
as a replacement for cash, it didn't really work. But as a replacement for a store of value and moving large sums of money or storing large sums of money in an anonymous, private way on the internet, it's actually been very successful.
gotcha.
That being said, some other product or some other coins or twists on the original idea are trying to pick up and be that cash solution.
Okay. So I'm guessing you're talking about the other coins like Ethereum, Litecoin, those things. Do you think they have a chance to like why Bitcoin's number one right now? Is Litecoin not going to ever become number one and take over? What do you think?
Well, I mean, Litecoin was never supposed to take over and become number one. The entire idea of Litecoin was okay, if Bitcoin takes this long for a transaction, and there's only so many of them. What if we just sped everything up and made more of them? So they just took every number involved in Bitcoin, multiplied it times four, and that was Litecoin. So there's four times as many coins. The blocks can hold four times as many transactions, so the processing is faster. So basically, Litecoin was kind of an experiment to say, like, all right, there's some complaints, there might be some flaws with this original idea. Let's tweak it. Let's bump the numbers a little bit and see if that makes things move a little better. So you would think, right? Like, okay, there's four times as many of them. That means Bitcoin and Litecoin prices should be tied together, but they're not. So like the experiment kind of didn't work because one Bitcoin isn't equal to four Litecoins.
Mm,
It's not the quarter to Bitcoin's dollar. Um, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And the most important reason is just the network effect. You people people that don't care about computers, people that don't care about internet money have now heard of Bitcoin. Very few people have heard of Litecoin, right? So it's just the network of people that know and care about Bitcoin is so much bigger
mhm.
that the scarcity has driven the price way up.
Gotcha. So if somebody ever told you, right, basically gold has value because of its intrinsic value to be in computers, used as jewelry, like what the heck is Bitcoin's value based on? Like what drives its value?
I mean, it's based on, so there's going to be people that'll tell you it's based on the value of the computing power that it takes to produce it. And there's some truth to that. Or it's based on its value just due strictly to its scarcity. And I think there's a lot more truth to that. People want somewhere to park their assets, somewhere where it's safe, where it'll either accrue in value or at least stay constant. And they want it to be somewhere where they can trust it, right? Maybe that was the grandmother that had the loaf of bread in the freezer. In between each slice of bread, there was $100 bill. Maybe this is the guy that seriously like buries gold dollars in a can in the backyard, right? Like
Mhm.
somewhere to put money where they can access it, but no one else can. It can't be lost. It can't be taken. So Bitcoin functions very well at that. Much easier than gold because gold is heavy. So if you have to leave, especially in these countries, like you see when like there's all this turmoil in a country, all of a sudden the Bitcoin prices skyrocket because
Mm,
anybody's like, oh, I'll sell my car. Sure, I'll sell it at a loss because I can't take this car because I flee across the border. I can't take pounds of gold. I can't
mm.
take my house, but I can take this QR code that's equal to however many Bitcoins I can get.
So, all right, if it's like based on like technology and it's a QR code and it's that easy to transfer, me being a techie guy, if I didn't know what about it, I would think it's easy to duplicate this. Why is it that somebody hasn't created a second Bitcoin from the Bitcoin they had in their wallet or wherever they have it stored?
Right. So this is the centerpiece of the $20 bill for the internet, right? If you take a $20 bill and you copy it, that's obviously a copy. You can't buy the pizza with that. You're going to jail, right? The problem with anything that's digital is that it can be copied exactly infinite number of times. So this would be a copier that could make a perfect $20 bill over and over and over again. The way we stop that with dollar bills is a serial number, special paper, magic ink, whatever. And there's tons of ways that they fight against this concept. But because that's a physical thing, it's harder. If it's digital, you can make copy paste as many times as you want, right? So what Bitcoin did is it solved that copy paste problem where you can't copy and paste a Bitcoin. One Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. The way that functions is the blockchain technology that was invented to make Bitcoin exist.
Mm,
What a blockchain is, very simply, it's just a database. It's a database where it tracks every Bitcoin or fraction of a Bitcoin in the world and says this Bitcoin is here, it's owned by this wallet. So then if I know if you're sending me a Bitcoin for a transaction, I can check and say, you really do have that Bitcoin in your wallet. And then
mm,
I can see it move and it can come to my wallet, right? So I can actually trust that I'm getting paid. Um, the reason that you can't copy it is because everyone that's using Bitcoin, everyone that's running a node, it's called, has a full copy of this database. So I don't have to rely on connecting to the internet to check and see, do you have a copy of it? My computer knows if your wallet has a copy or not already. So that eliminates all sorts of hacking. That eliminates the fact that you could say, I'm going to buy 5 things at once, send 5 Bitcoins, but really I only have 1 Bitcoin, and one of those 5 people is going to get it. The other 4 people are out of luck, but because I'm on the internet, poof, you're gone.
mm.
Right. So because everyone has a copy of the database already, we know where the Bitcoin really is and who really has the power to send it because they own it. And there's no way to copy that. There's no way to break the blockchain. You could make changes on your machine to the blockchain, and the other millions of computers around the world that have the accurate data would just say, no, that's not right. We reject it. You can't send a transaction.
Gotcha. So it's never been hacked. Did, as can can it be banned then?
Well, so a government, and they have, could ban a citizen from owning a Bitcoin or transacting in a Bitcoin, but there's no way for a government to ban Bitcoin. As long as any computer anywhere in the world still has a copy of that database, all Bitcoins still exist. All owners still own their Bitcoin, right? So to stop Bitcoin, it would truly take some sort of event that would stop all the computers at once on Earth and erase their memories. So like cataclysm, global, we have other problems beside
Hmm.
Bitcoin if that's going down.
Right,
But
right.
if a government said, like if the US government said, for instance, it's illegal for a US citizen to own a Bitcoin or buy or sell a Bitcoin, they could do that. And then it would be on them to prove that wallet 081214B QRT, whatever, belongs to me, a US citizen.
Gotcha. So I've heard of ways of people saying that it's anonymous and it's hard to trace, or you can use it that way. Is it really anonymous, or is it something that's just obvious that Ian owns something or John owns this much?
So that's a complicated question. Originally it was anonymous, right? Like if you're a $20 bill on the internet, once that changes hands, there's no way to know where that $20 bill came from, right? If you empty your cash register at the end of the night, you couldn't say, well, this bill came from my third customer. Like they're interchangeable. Um, and that was the goal for Bitcoin originally. It is no longer truly anonymous. There's very sneaky ways for tying things back to the wallets and saying this wallet belongs to so and so, or we can follow these transactions. So you hear about like dirty Bitcoins or bad Bitcoins because they came from a hack or they were used by a criminal organization, and because we can follow it back and follow the chain through that database that everyone has and agrees on, you could say like, oh, well, this is a tainted Bitcoin, or this
Mm.
came from a bad guy, so maybe that's an unfavorable Bitcoin now. Um, that's kind of a groundless fear because I think just just the rarity of them and the fact that if you want to buy one, you're going to buy one, and maybe it passed through some bad hands at one point, but so did the $20 bill probably.
Right, right. I've heard of people, snorting coke with rolled up $20 bills, and there's probably a little bit of coke on every $20 bill from back in the day. So yeah, it could, but I guess if it's
And then you buy
using
Girl Scout.
right. Well, with COVID, that's going to be less and less. We're touching less money nowadays, so I'm guessing
True.
we won't be passing those dirty dollars around like you used to. But if anybody's watching this at FYI, this is John. He's like, to me, he's the Bitcoin expert in Baltimore. Runs a Bitcoin meetup in the past and has since passed it on to another colleague. But he's still around doing his thing and explaining to everyone who doesn't. Wants to get in the space and needs some knowledge on it. And I brought him on here to talk about what Bitcoin is. And so if you guys have any other questions about what Bitcoin is, feel free to drop them in the comments. Let me know. But for now, let's talk about something I hear a lot when it comes to like Bitcoin's the price. First off, let's say this: the price is up today. Like it's shot past 21,000 and 20,000, and then shot to 21,000. I don't even know really what is it at, John. I don't know if I try not to look too many times because it scares me how fast it jumps.
It was like 21.3 before we started
You
this.
you
So
are on point,
all-time
sir.
high.
This is gonna be backwards, but yeah, you are on point. Price is high right now. In the last like what is this? This on a week? It went up 15% in a week. Like anyway, the trajectory is crazy. But anyway, the price is, as some people say, is volatile. Like essentially, it just goes up and down so frequently. Like, what do you think is causing that? What is that about?
I mean, it is super volatile because people compare the price of this to the stock market because that's the only other sort of thing that they know how to compare the price to.
Hmm.
Um, and the reason it's so volatile, it's an emerging thing. It's very new. Any stock right after it gets released or they do their IPO, there's a window of volatility. Now, that might be a couple of weeks or a couple of months, but that hits a very established market, and there's players that can help a new person get that stock if they're interested in it. In this world, there's not really those players. There's no E-Trade where it's just like, oh, this stock just got announced for this new company and it's going on a roller coaster. Sure, man. Just set up an account. You can buy it today. In this world, there's so much to learn, and there's so many ways that you can make a mistake and end up sending your money to some dude in Russia that
Not
people
Russia.
are people are leery, and people are slower to react and slower to get involved. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like anyone out there that is thinking about taking the leap, if you can find someone trustworthy, ask for the help. Get some advice. Watch the good clips on YouTube. Go to the trusted experts and like see what they recommend, where they recommend to start. Because you could be making a costly mistake otherwise. There's even the people that are experienced in this. Like I almost got caught by a scam 2 weeks ago.
Mm.
You know, so the volatility it's very much based on the fact that some people were able to get in so early and get so many of these that they can dump them whenever they want and affect the price. Or anytime a major government says anything positive for Bitcoin, the price goes up. Anything negative for Bitcoin, the price goes down. Just a rumor that like there was a cost me thousands of dollars, a rumor that India was going to ban cryptocurrency.
Hmm.
I've never been to India. I have nothing to do with India. That cost me several thousand dollars just because the Indian government had a rumor. It didn't even happen.
Yeah.
So as the market matures, as more people get involved, as major institutions get involved because they don't sell at the drop of a hat or on a rumor, the price is gonna the price is gonna stabilize, and there'll be a lot smaller swings. There'll still be swings, but it won't be as aggressive. Uh, that being said, swings are great. If you trade them right, you're making money.
Yeah. If you're a day trader, you love this, like, right? And if you're a long-term investor, these short-term volatilities shouldn't matter for you. the
I mean,
trajectory is up.
long term, it's just going up. Who cares?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Who
Like
cares about the speed bumps?
if we were to look at this, it's going to be backwards. In the last year, it's up. I mean,
Yeah.
if we go back even 3 years, if it refreshes, because this thing it's technically higher than where it was 3 years ago. My phone looks crazy. But, people aren't really paying attention to it long term. They're looking at it from a short term perspective, and they're wondering what happened in the past, like what happened in 2018, uh, you know, like, and seeing it and just thinking, hey, I don't want to get caught in that again. So do you think it's too late to buy if somebody were to get in now? We're just at 21,000. Like, how do you feel about the price being this high and people trying to time and market?
So from, if you're looking at it, if you're looking at the graph of this year, you're mad at yourself. You feel like you missed out. You missed your window. Um, but that's what the graph looks like every year for this because over time it's still going up. And like there's only 21 million Bitcoins. 18 million of
Mm,
them already exist and are part of this trading, or have been lost forever because that wallet's gone and the computer burned up in a fire, or the owner died and didn't give someone the keys, right? So like I read an estimate, one third of all Bitcoins mined have already been lost forever, right? So instead of 18 million Bitcoins in circulation, we're talking 12 million Bitcoins in circulation.
mm.
So, this is a high price considering where we started and where we've been watching, but it's not a high price compared to where we're going to be in a couple years. I truly believe that.
Gotcha. So it's something that I think people aren't really focused on. They're looking at the price more than anything. Like, and it's hard to figure out where the long term viability of this thing is if you just keep looking at the price. So it's kind of you kind of have to tell people like what's going on in the space, and you know even if they're looking at price, they can look at who's trying to get it maybe at the same time and use that as a idea. Like you said, there's institutions buying it and they're staying in. They're not coming in just to play the market and get out. It took them a long time to get in because they got to get it by their board and make sure they're okay with it. And you know, once they get in with $100 million, that moves the market crazy. And they're not thinking they're just going to flip it real quick, especially when the dollar is being printed. We're getting more stimulus checks, so just that
Oh,
alone is going to raise the price. So
inflation's coming.
yeah, it's a thing, right? So if somebody did want to buy Bitcoin right now, do they have to buy $21,000 worth of Bitcoin if they were to get in, or could they
Right,
buy fractions of it?
because a Bitcoin's worth $21,000. If I want to buy a share of Apple stock, you have to buy the share of Apple stock. The cool thing about the Bitcoin and a really forward-thinking sort of way that it was created is it goes down several decimal places. The
Mm,
dollar goes down two decimal places. You don't think of them as decimal places, you think of them as change or pennies, but really it's decimal places on the dollar. And Bitcoin goes down eight,
mm,
right? So like you could buy, you know, one Satoshi, which is the smallest unit of Bitcoin, which is worth way less than a penny. So the I can't buy a full Bitcoin, so I'm not going to invest is you're shooting yourself in the foot. You buy whatever you feel comfortable buying. You only invest what you can afford to lose, what you can afford to risk.
mhm,
Obviously, that's just investing 101. But then you're looking at percentages like anything else. So if you bought $1 and it went up 10%, you made a 10% return in a day. That's an awesome return. You should pat yourself on the back. Now, do you regret not buying $1,000? Sure. But if you don't have $1,000 and you only bought $1 worth, you still made a 10% return on your money. That's great. So I would say any day is the right day to do it. Even on a day when it's the all-time high, maybe the price dips after this, after some people cash out and take some profits. Typically, at the end of any year, the price dips because people are cashing out to pay their taxes.
mm.
But even if you bought today at the absolute height, unless you're really day trading it, which is foolish, unless you're experienced in that, which I would not recommend.
Mm.
You're holding it for the long term. That's the only way to think of it. So $21,000 is probably a low price if you can afford to hold it for 5 years or 10 years. There's no reason not to think it's going to be $100,000 before long. So
Yeah.
that's a 5 times increase on your money. That's an awesome return.
Yeah. I really wish I never got out the game back in the day. But it's because I wasn't looking at it from a long-term perspective. I didn't understand the idea that investing long term is the safest way to go. It's easier. It's just less stress on your brain. So I kind of wish I had people like you around me to guide me through this and help me out. Just like Chantel was asking the question, you already answered it about the all time high situation. Yeah, it's not too late. It's what looks like all time high now won't look like all time highs come 5 years from now. You'll be like, oh my God, Bitcoin was cheap back then. Just like I'm
Right.
looking back like 2013. Oh my God, it was $600. Bitcoin was cheap back then. Like, you know what I'm saying, compared to what it is now. So, some of the
Well,
things, go ahead.
let's say 2017 was the last time it really caught fire like this. If you had bought at the absolute peak, if you had been like the last guy to buy Bitcoin before it crashed in
Mm,
2017, you would have bought at like 19 and change, right? And then it went down and it went down. And then so it took you a couple of years, but now you're above that again. So as long as you have the long-term view, like me, if it was me, I wouldn't buy tonight, right? Like it's an all-time high. There's usually a pullback after that.
mm,
That's not investing 101. That's someone that looked at a lot of markets and a lot of graphs. But like, wait until it bounces back down 1,000 or something, then buy in. Then you feel like you've done, you didn't do the impulse buy, you did the smart decision.
true.
That being said, when it hit 20, we all thought it was going to pull back and it blasted straight to 21. So maybe tomorrow it's at 25 and this was bad advice and you should have bought tonight. I don't know. Right? Like I honestly don't know. And anyone that does say they know, if you're watching their channel or you're going to pay for their expertise, they're lying to you and they're probably scamming you. So,
Yeah, you got to
you
do it
know,
at your own risk. We're not financial advisors. So if you jump in, you just got to
yeah.
take your time and don't make an impulse decision. But if they did want to jump in, where do they go? Some people are like confused as to where they can buy Bitcoin nowadays. I heard PayPal, you can get it now.
PayPal, you can get it. I wouldn't recommend it. So there's a saying in Bitcoin, if you don't own the keys to the wallet, you don't own the coins.
Mm,
So there's two ways to buy Bitcoin. There's the original way where you get your wallet, where you have the private key that says, I own this, I can unlock it, and I can send the money if I want. And I'm the only person, unless you're dumb enough to share your key, I'm the only person that can then do that.
mm,
Then now to make it easier to be like E-Trade or, a brokerage firm where I don't want to have a stack of stock certificates in a drawer somewhere. I want someone else to manage it for me. So there's these custodial brokers that'll let you come in, link your bank, send them some money, and buy whatever coin you want, but you don't own the key to that wallet. That company does.
mm,
All right. Okay, cool. I trust the company. They're a US company. If something goes wrong, I can sue them. Whatever. They're very reputable. I trust them. Well, I would say no. Like this is cash. So if that company gets hacked, that money can get stolen. They can't hack the blockchain, but they can hack the servers at that company. Someone can have a really crappy password and let them in, and then they can use the private key to move your money that they were holding for you to the hacker's wallet.
mm.
So if you're going to do it, if you're going to put any sort of amount of money in it, besides just playing with it, you need to own the keys. You need to learn how to manage a wallet, and you need to do it right. That's just responsible investing.
Gotcha.
So to do that, there's a couple of reputable exchanges you know, for us in the U.S., it's much harder than almost anywhere else in the world because the IRS is very on top of this and
Mm,
on top of crypto and watching all we do. So there's a lot of businesses that don't touch us and don't want our business because they don't want to deal with the U.S. government. There's a couple of reputable sellers that you as a citizen can buy from. I'm sure if you have links, you can link them, below this afterwards. Um, and I would
gotcha.
I would start there. And there's a lot of education, and they'll let you buy on their site and store it on their site, or they'll let you buy it on the site and then you'll have the private keys. So that's your best bet. Coinbase tends to be the first one that people go to,
Right.
and the fees are a little high, but you get all the education, you get all the security, and they'll deal with you as an American citizen. A lot of other companies just won't.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Coinbase was like the first one I tried. That I really felt like I could leave the crypto on. Not saying it's recommended, like he says, not your keys, not your Bitcoin. Essentially, like saying if you don't have the key to the door, then it's probably not your house. So whatever's inside isn't yours because
well,
somebody
and
could
then
go ahead and take it.
people are thinking like, all right, but I put cash in a bank and I feel safe leaving the cash with Bank of America. What's the difference? The
Mhm.
difference is that that money is federally insured, and the government is saying if something happens to Bank of America, if they get robbed, if they get hacked, we, the US government, will give you the money back up to a certain
Mhm.
amount. So that's why you could safely take your stack of 20s and put it in Bank of America and not feel nervous that it's going to be gone tomorrow. Until there's something like that with crypto, you need to own your own keys. And even
Gotcha.
if there was somebody insuring it, I'd still, maybe I'm the guy that buries the money in the coffee can in the backyard
Right.
50 years ago, but I would still want to own my own keys and I'd want to know how this world functions. If I'm investing in it, learn about it.
Yeah. It's one of those situations where the second you invest, you automatically want to figure out more. And this is one of those things you hope somebody figures out fast because one of the reasons why the price went down back in 2007, 18. Oh no, wait, not 18, sorry, 14 was because of a hack of an exchange, which was like a crypto bank, and that caused a tumble of the price. But
Yep.
you just gotta get educated on this and try to get in however which way you can. Don't make rash decisions and keep it small. If you want to invest $5 first, that's fine. Um, so one of the things I didn't have back then was a lot of places to go to learn about it. What do you think some options maybe to learn about cryptocurrency? Is there a place or books or movies they should look out for?
So there's a bunch of legitimate like crypto news sites now. I wrote a list down and I left it in the other room.
No worries.
We can link it later. So there's like legitimate people who report on this.
Mm,
And one of the things I'll say when you're reading an article about this coin or the price or whatever, if the guy at the bottom doesn't disclose what he owns in cryptocurrency, not you don't have to give me dollar amounts, but if you don't say at the bottom, I own Bitcoin, I own some Litecoin, I own Monero, or alternately, I don't own any cryptocurrency, I just report on it. If they don't disclose that, then that whole article and that whole news site, I kind of take with a grain of salt,
mhm.
because maybe you're pumping something that you just bought a whole ton of, and you have the power to push it out on the internet, and you're waiting for other suckers to hear about it, read it, and then buy it while you're selling. So like any site that I would recommend, any site that I trust, they have a disclosure somewhere about like, do they own any? What do they own?
Mm,
And then any of the good sites that are going to let you buy as an American citizen, like the Coinbases, they didn't used to, but now they have a very deep educational, frequently asked questions, beginner guides, just tons of information because it's like learning a new language. There's
Right.
just so much, and you can really go down the rabbit hole. And if you stick with like, if you're just reading on the internet, you can go down a rabbit hole and end up reading about math equations. And that's not what you need to learn if you're just trying to invest and get some Bitcoin. What you need to learn is like the 101 stuff that's on the Coinbase site.
Yeah, it does help. Plus, they reward you too. So, if
Free money.
yeah, free money. They give you $10 extra for signing up. Like you said, I'll probably drop a link down below if you want to provide one, fine too. If you got another site that you want to link, and you can get extra Bitcoin just by learning what it is from these pages. So it's a good resource. That was not there for me back in 2013. I probably would have had a better time and never got out the game if that was there back then. Um, One suggestion I have, and I still watch it every now and then. I probably like once a year I try to watch it now. Is Banking on Bitcoin. I think that was like the best documentary I've ever seen about the cryptocurrency space, and it keeps me inspired about what's possible with this, regardless of the make money factor. It just shows you that uh, we have a long way to go, and it's going to make some changes in this world that are worth being a part of in some way or some form. So
Yeah, it's
that,
exciting.
yeah. And then you forgot to say you could come to the Bitcoin meetup where I met you.
Of course, yeah. I mean, especially right now, we're doing the Bitcoin meetups virtually. So, like, if you can't get out of the house on a weeknight to come meet at a restaurant, you don't have to. We're doing them online. I'm actually probably tonight gonna pick the dates for the beginning of 2021 and the
Okay.
spring. And we're on meetup.com. It's just the Baltimore Bitcoin Meetup. So feel free to find us. There's a lot of folks in there that have been doing this for many years that are happy to offer advice. Anytime a scammer finds us, we root them out pretty quick and run them out of the group. So any of the locals, any of the experienced folks are happy to help.
Yeah. You guys have been very helpful in, teaching me the ways. I get to ask any damn question I want. What the is this Bitcoin? Should I buy? I don't even like buying stuff online. But whatever, whatever you need to answer, you guys have definitely been there. And I appreciate you coming on here, man, because it's just hard to articulate some of this stuff. And I want to make sure that people can get it in different ways, explain to them, just in case I'm not saying it right. You know what I'm saying? It took me so long to figure out what it is, and I still sometimes lose faith in what I invest in because of the risks that are involved. But so far, it's paid off, and I feel like just giving others the information that I know so far and what whoever I can get on here to explain it is worth it. So appreciate it to the,
Hi.
for real. Since we didn't get too technical, and I was trying on purpose not to, I want to make sure I keep it basic. I feel like we should do a different one, but be more specific on stuff like if we want to go deep into how people should value some things or get into the market. Um,
Yeah,
we can
more
get
of
into
a
that another.
like a trading look at things and like how I would pick investments and why I would pick this one over that one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think if people are interested in that, we should start it off with why the different coins are different, what
Mm,
makes them different, right? Like, are they all just copies,
right.
just with a different name and a logo, or right? So like, I think that'd be a fun idea if people are into it. We can definitely do that.
Yeah. I'll try to figure out how to do a poll on here or something and then see while we're doing this. Um,
Tell them to send a Bitcoin with their vote.
bruh. Well, hi. We'll do like a winner. First one to say Bitcoin gets everybody else's Bitcoin. First one to spell it out letter by letter. But anyway, man, thanks. Enjoy the rest of your day. Appreciate you coming on as always. And if anybody that
Anytime.
didn't get to ask a question, feel free to drop it now, and I'll hopefully get John to answer it later, or maybe he'll come into the comments and answer them. Either way, we'll be watching. Hopefully, you'll watch for the next one. Peace out, dude.
Later.
Later.